Hey, fight fans, welcome back to Carl Peruzza MMA. I'm Carl Peruzza, and today I'm with a recurring guest. He is top MMA prospect, Mr. Cam Teague, getting ready, going back in action, taking on David Zelner, Island Fights, Biloxi, Mississippi. Cam, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, brother. Awesome to talk to you as always. So, yeah, a few weeks ago, Dean Toole and those boys at Island Fights, they dropped a bombshell, a huge contest with yourself and David Zelner. What I like about it is, man, this is an action-packed fight. I think it screams fireworks all over when you look how you fight, when you look how he fights. It's going to be a fun, man. Did you get a fun one? Did you get excited when you were first pitched him?
I was just looking for anybody, honestly, to fight. They pitched me some names because I'm a busy guy. You know, my management and stuff, they weren't too like that. They're saying like I don't need to take a fight. I can wait and see, but that's not how I roll. I like to fight. This will be my 10th fight in 2 years. So yeah, they said Zellner was in and the other guys weren't. So I said it doesn't matter who. So I said I'll fight Zellner. He's a tough guy. He's been around and he hasn't been finished in traditional MMA. So I'm gonna try to put that one on him.
For you, you've obviously fought in tons of promotions, fought in the Contender Series. First time, I believe, fighting in Island Fights, a promotion over in Pensacola that has brought so many guys to the UFC. A little different, not really a cage. You're going to be fighting like a boxing ring. Is that Island Fights, that been a promotion you've always been eyeing?
I fought for him before. It
Oh,
was
you did? Okay, you did.
I fought Racine. It was like my third fight, I think. It only lasted 30 seconds, so I won't count it as like a fight. But I'm excited to be back in the boxing ring. I like to strike and stuff, and I hate it when guys get pushed on the cage and held on the cage, and I don't think I'll have to worry about that in the boxing ring. So I think just how Zelner fights and stuff, we'll be in the middle going toe to toe.
Right now you're an 8-1 fighter. Obviously, but a lot of people start recognizing you from that Contender Series opportunity. Your last fight out there, dominating fashion. Is the goal right now? Are we just thinking kind of obviously we have to take care of business, we got to take care of Zellner, but would we be crazy if we're not thinking what's happening maybe this summer if another opportunity in the Contender?
Oh yeah, that's honestly, if I pick up this win here, I think we're sitting pretty for short notice in the UFC straight up because just the way I fight and how they treated me on the Contender Series, and I took that fight short notice. But I think worst case is Dana White Contender Series again. I gladly do it again. Whatever they want. The UFC calls, I do what they say. I'll fight who they want, and I'll earn it. I'm not one to sit around and wait for handouts. Wait for opportunities. So I'm gonna go out here and beat a couple more guys. It wouldn't surprise me. I pick up a win here, and then a month or two later, I'm in a fight again. So I'm a busy guy. I like to stay busy, and as long as I'm healthy, I'm gonna keep on taking these opportunities, and hopefully the UFC gives me another call.
You've really established yourself as one of the most fun and entertaining guys to watch on the regional scene, man. There's not a boring Cam Teague fight. You go out there, you go for the finish, you put on a show for the fans. Is that something you take a lot of pride in?
I do take a lot of pride in that because, as I said before in other interviews and stuff, I like to put myself as a fan. I don't want to see guys like, I mean, grappling's cool and all, but I don't want to see a guy lay and pray on a guy for 15 minutes and get a boring decision. Or these guys, they stand in the middle, they point bite to a decision and let the judges decide. I like to think what the crowd wants to see. They want to see somebody get knocked out, whether that's me or the other guy. So the way I fight, one of us will get dealt in, and I think Zelner here, he's people like to watch him too, but I think I'll have him shooting pretty early.
Obviously you train at your gym where you're at right now. You also do some stuff with the D'Iberville guys. Saw you at the last game, Brad, with Brandon Davis. That night, Zelner was in action against Mike Sanford. Obviously, you train with those guys in D'Iberville a little bit. Has there been maybe some notes from them, any sort of collaborations? Get ready for him here.
Yeah, I've been working with Brandon a lot. I'll have Brandon in my corner this fight. As most people know, I changed gyms here. I train at AMP now because my grappling coach left and started his own gym, so I went with him, and I pretty much still got the same team. I still got Mike Barnett cornering me, Blake Jordan. He runs AMP now, so I'm under the AMP banner, and I have Brandon Davis now. He's going to start cornering me because we've been honestly. I think it's like the best sparring rounds I get is going with Brandon, and I think it's vice versa too. So we really just work with each other and thrive off each other, and you can't beat that. The guy's has 10 UFC fights to his name, and that's where I want to be. I want to have 10 UFC fights one day. So, yeah, just little notes and stuff. Been working with Tyler Hill too, who fought that night as well, and they showed me some things. I'm excited to use the new weapons and tools that I've been learning from the D'Iberville guys for sure.
Obviously those guys are very good at their craft, but so many of them have been in the UFC. They have fought on the big shows. They've had huge fights. You feel like being around those guys that you're learning, obviously you're brushing up for your skills. You're getting ready for your fights, but do you think you're learning about the business side of mixed martial arts and how to conduct yourself as a professional?
A little bit, I guess. Like I said, they've been around a lot longer than me. I've only been a pro for 2 years, which is it's kind of crazy that they have 10 fights in 2 years. Like, most guys, it takes them probably 3-4 years to get to where I'm at. In a year and a half, I was already fighting for a UFC contract. So, having them guide me and stuff. And then obviously I have my own coaches like Mike Barnett, who's been there since I was an amateur, help me and lead me through here. I also had Will Covington, was my first manager until Abe took over, and those guys take care of me, and I just do what they say. They make my life easy. They say, hey, we got to fight for you here against this guy. What do you say? It's always yes for me if they line it up. So,
it's kind of crazy when you think about how active you've been. I mean, 10 fights in a 2-year time span is absolutely insane. You hardly see any fighters doing that. You feel like when you're active like that, it allows you to maintain and carry that momentum?
I think it does because, like I said, I think winding up another fight here is helping me more than anything than just sitting and waiting because, I got this guy that's training for me every day. It helps me get up out of bed too and work harder in the gym and stuff. So, I think it's just a testament of who I am as a fighter. And, if you're as active as I am, people take notice too. So hopefully it gets me to where I'm trying to get.
If anyone watches the Contender Series, I mean, they say it over and over again. They're looking for exciting performances. They want guys who come in with finishes. They want guys who have very tough records, fight great opponents on the regional scene. With that being said, mixed martial arts, especially the UFC, has gone so entertainment driven. I mean, you got to sell. You have to do something flashy, either by with your personality or with your performances. Does that make even more of a precedent when you're fighting a guy like Zelner to focus, yeah, I need a win, but I also need to go here. I need to knock him out. I need to look for the finish.
It does. It's I'm always looking for the finish regardless. It wouldn't matter if the UFC like that or not, because like I said before, I think if what the fan thinks, and as my mom said on the Contender Series, I think a couple of my interviews, it doesn't count if it goes to a decision. So after my first pro fight, I won it, and she was like, yeah, but you knocked him out as an amateur, so that one doesn't really count. So I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna make sure one of us gets knocked out every time I'm out there. So I'd say it's more my mom saying some shit to me than the UFC wanted me to do it.
This day and age, obviously, entertainment and personality is such a big part of combat sports. I mean, you see it all the time. There's fighters now. They're people they're not. They're putting on these characters, these gimmicks, because they know they're going to get a title shot. They know they're going to sell tickets. They're going to get more money. The whole 9 yards. How do you think personality and entertainment has impacted mixed martial arts?
I think if you're not as an exciting fighter, you need to be a big talker. Fortunately for me, I think I got it all. I think I can talk on the mic and stuff too if I got to. After my fights, I always say something that gets thrown into a clip or whatever. But yeah, I don't want to dig on anybody, but like Sean Strickland, for instance, big talker, but when he fights, man, he's a point fighter, bro. Like I'll say it. It's not the most exciting fight, but you just gotta find ways to sell yourself. And for me, it's just the fight itself. I like to compare myself to people like Justin Gagey and stuff. Like when you see them on the card, you're like, that's gonna be fight of the night. And one day when I want people to look at the UFC and see me on the card, they're like, that's fight of the night.
I think a byproduct of this whole entertainment and personality-driven era are the casual fans. These are the people, they're usually drunk. You can find them at B-dubs. They're in the stands. They like to yell, twist them in the you-know-what. They talk all this smack.
Overall, you'll find them at the Hard Rock.
Yeah, you find them at the Hard Rock. What do you think of these people?
I think they're great. It's funny, especially during a fight, when you hear somebody yell some stuff like that, you just laugh to yourself. But I think it's just the fans. It is what it is. At the end of the day, people get drunk at the fights. It's just like a football game. People say things they wouldn't normally say. But I think it's great.
Obviously Island fights a lot of time in Pensacola. This time in Biloxi, is it pretty cool to have a fight like this, relatively near where you're at?
Oh yeah, it's only about an hour away from me. People that keep up with me know I probably fight 80% of my fights in Biloxi. So it's like a second home to me. The people there, I honestly think when I fight in Biloxi, they cheer harder for me there than they do in Mobile, where I'm from. So I like to call Biloxi my second home, and I go over there all the time and train with Brandon and them at the Aberville. So it basically is my second home now. So I always love fighting in Biloxi, but I'm hoping this might be the last time I fight in Biloxi for a while, because I want to fight in Vegas again, honestly.
It's kind of crazy when you talk about that whole area. I don't think that area gets a lot of love, but when it talks about fighting, I mean, fighting through Alabama, through Mississippi, through Louisiana. I mean, guys who from there, I mean, they're born into it. It's hardcore fighting. The fans love it. It's a different breed. What makes you guys, man, so into this whole fighting game?
I'm not sure. I think it's just that we're overlooked. A lot of people, like you said, don't really look to this area. Brandon and Jason and Alan Belcher, those guys, they're the man that was from down here. And I want one day people to say, Cam Teague was the man at this time. And I want to be the new face down here. We don't have anybody really in the UFC that's from the Biloxi Mobile area. And hopefully this year I'll crack in there.
Since your time on the Contender Series, have you noticed a difference, maybe like popularity? Are you starting to see a little more buzz behind your name?
Oh yeah, people come up to me all the time now at fights and stuff and take pictures with me, and it's great, to get the love like that, because I mean, I'm always down here in like Biloxi area. People come up to me and stuff, but now like I'll go to Walmart and somebody will recognize me, like, oh, you're that guy that fought on a Contender Series. I'm like, yeah, I got my ass kicked that night, but I mean, shit, I was on TV for a little bit.
So many people watch this sport and they look at the big names, obviously. They look at Alan Belcher, they look at John Jones, they look at Habib, and these casual fans think this is the greatest life ever, think it's amazing to be a fighter. Little do they know, man, let's be real. Fighting on the regional scene, most of the time, we're losing money. You have to have, a lot of guys have to have that 9-to-5 job. Some have kids, some have a wife. You have to pay to train, get up early, stay up late. You have to go through all these sacrifices, miss birthdays, miss Thanksgivings, miss all these things. You've started the experience. You've had your time in the spotlight. You've been on one of the big shows, the biggest MMA platform in the world. How you've been doing this for a long time, man? How have you been keeping pushing and kicking forward?
It's just I haven't reached my ultimate goal yet, and that's to be in the UFC. I grew up watching it, and it's a dream. I have opportunities. I can go fight for these other big promotions, but I don't want to do that. That's like playing basketball, or let's say playing football. You want to go to the NFL. You don't want to go play for the XFL. So that's just my ultimate goal. I want to be a UFC fighter, and when I get there, I want to stay there. So I'm gonna keep fighting and put it on fan-friendly fights like I always do, and I think the opportunity is gonna come a lot sooner than I think it is, as always.
You mentioned a really good comparison, to you and Justin Gaethje. I think another guy, you might have got this before. When I look at you, I see your approach to the way you fight, anybody, anywhere, anytime. I see Donald Cerrone, and I see a lot of it. Is that a guy that maybe your emulator grew up watching?
Oh, for sure. It's funny you say that, because the fight that I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this. Because I was out of town. I was working. I was a tankerman and stuff. I was watching UFC. It was Jones versus Cormier 2. First fight on the pay-per-view was the fight I was supposed to fight for, Robbie Lawler, Donald Cerrone. After that fight, I said, man, when I come back and get off this boat, I was like 19, 20 years old. I'm going to train. I can do that. I can fight. So, it's another guy, Robbie Lawler, Donald Cerrone. Those were my heroes growing up, so watching them fight each other, I was like, I want to be like them one day. So I think I'm right there to being like them.
What's it like now? Obviously, you haven't achieved the goal yet. You've gotten a taste of the spotlight. But what's it like when, younger fighters hit you up, see you at the gym, and ask you for advice?
It's funny because I used to be the guy. When I first came in, when I was 20, I was looking up to the guys in my gym like Mike Barnett, Mark Colker, Kurt Hollabaugh, and Rock Weaver. And those were the guys when I first joined. And Justin Prescott, too, got shot him out. And now it's like guys that are getting into the sport and stuff, they're looking up to me. I'm getting DMs on Instagram, on Facebook, like, oh, I've watched all your fights, man. I'm having my first fight coming up. Do you have any advice for me and stuff? And it's just surreal, you know. I'm becoming the vet now, I guess you could say. I'm only 27, but 10 fights deep already, you know. People they see me fight all the time, you know, so I think it's kind of cool.
You know, it's funny you mentioned Kurt Hollabaugh. You know, that's the type of guy. He's been here for so long. You know, obviously he started so long ago. He was used to fighting in bars and barns and all the crazy stuff when this wasn't really even a sport yet. A lot of ups and downs for him, really making a resurgence now, you know, staying in the
Right.
UFC. Is that a type of dude, man, that you really look up to?
I do look up to Kurt a lot, and think he's gonna put an old beating on Alex Hernandez here pretty soon.
Absolutely. All right, Cam. Last question for you, my friend. I know you got some training to do here soon, but in a perfect world, what is the outcome when you take on David Zelner over at Island Fights in Biloxi, Mississippi?
Fight of the night. I dominate like I should, and Sean Shelby hits my lineup after it.
Awesome, man. Well, Cam, thank you again. Always a pleasure talking to you, brother, and can't wait to watch you fight, dude. It's going to be awesome.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. That's it for us tonight. I'm Carlo Peruzza. That's Mr. Cam Teague. You can watch him. Island Fights going down next week, taking on David Zelner. Stick around, fight fans.